fucking key won't go in my goddamn pocket.
Oh God! Oh no! Oh my goodness! Oh God!
What the fuck? They want me to do a review for the Human Vapor, but it's never been fucking released on fucking DVD or anyway, really, here in the United States. It's that really shitty American cut. I mean, sure, I've seen the American cut, but this movie is nothing like the Japanese version, everyone tells me. So why the fuck would I review that? Because it'd be shit, and I want to give this movie a fair fucking viewing. But I can't fucking do that. Sure, you've got a good copy of Half Human, like that's fucking possible, so you can't get a hold of the fucking Human Vapor. No, Jesus Christ, they're all fucking ridiculous, and everybody wants you to fucking do this shit. No, I've been searching for fucking the Human Vapor. I've been searching years for that goddamn thing, and people already have it on DVD. They can't even play it because it hasn't even been released here in the United States, so DVD players here in the United States and Canada can't even fucking play it, and then happens, and then the apocalypse happens, and then 2 + 2 equals 6, and then everything just fucking happens. Are you kidding me?
Why not search it on the internet like everyone else does? It's 2015.
No. Oh my God, you're so fucking hot. No. Aha! 1999? Oh God, I ain't paying for that shit.
Hey Adam, I found it.
Oh my God! Oh no!
We need to stop watching Red Letter Media.
Hey Patrick, guess what?
What?
Guess what I got?
What'd you get?
I got the Human Vapor with English subtitles, bitch!
Ooh, that's quite the accomplishment, Adam. I've got my DVD here. It's also got English subtitles, and I've had it for a couple years actually, long before you.
Oh, fuck you.
Yeah, I've seen that film too.
Wait, what?
What the hell was that?
Hey, guys, it's me. I've kind of been here the whole time.
Is that YouTube's Andres Perez, aka KaijuNoir?
Yes, it is I, the great KaijuNoir.
Oh my God!
This is either going to be very good or very, very bad.
Wait. I agree with you, Patrick, but wait, we've all seen the Human Vapor and we're here at the same time, half in the same space?
Yeah, apparently.
Oh my God, according to the rules of the internet, do you know what this means?
What?
Crossover review?
Yeah!
Sweet.
Are you okay with that, Patrick?
Yeah, sure, why not?
Hello, YouTube. This is Adam Noyes of AM Productions, and welcome to this special episode of Ishiro Honda-thon. Yeah, I know, I said that Ishiro Honda-thon was done and everything like that, but, you know, this is before I actually found a copy of The Human Vapor, and now that I actually have seen the film, both the English and Japanese version of the film, now I can actually talk about it, and I have these two goobers with me. So I guess to really introduce these two, I have Patrick Galvan, aka the Unknown 837. Say hi, Patrick.
I still got the Human Vapor, and I still got it way before you did.
Well, we've established this, Patrick.
Yeah, I'm just rubbing salt in the wound.
Piece of shit. And then we have Andres Perez, aka KaijuNoir. Say hi, Andres.
Goobers, Adam?
Yeah.
That's the best insult you can come up with.
That is the best insult I could come up with. I like them term goobers. What are you talking about?
That sounds like a candy or something.
Well, I have my Red Bull, so we're good, and I'm all caffeined up, so I think this will be a fun and entertaining review. So, in case you couldn't tell what we're looking at, we are looking at Ishiro Honda's kind of infamous/famous film, The Human Vapor. And by infamous, I mean the fact that it's very hard to get your hands on a copy of the film with English subtitles.
I'm actually surprised that this hasn't been released yet in some sort of compilation by Media Blasters or Sony.
Me neither. I'm very surprised. I would like somebody to do a DVD of this film with the English and Japanese version on it. Because they're so different. I don't know if you're aware of the Americanized version, either one of you, but
I've only known what I've read on Wikipedia.
I watched a VHS copy of the Americanized version. The Americanized version is a little over 10 minutes shorter, and it also is from the point of view of the human vapor throughout the entire film. It has his narration through. It has the stereotypical narrator explaining everything, even though we can clearly see it on screen.
and of course, this is the 60s film, so of course the English dubber had to put in a false Japanese accent.
Exactly, and it's vastly different in terms of pace and tonality than the Human Vapor, than the Japanese version. I think we can all agree that the Japanese version is a very slow film. And by slow I mean there's a lot of build up in atmosphere.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, personally, I'm not bothered by slow-paced films all that much. I mean, I like movies like Jaws, or I don't know, like E.T., or even the recent Godzilla. I can handle a slower-paced film as long as it's got decent build-up. And yeah, that like you said, Adam, this definitely builds up that mood and atmosphere.
Yeah, Patrick, would you agree with that?
I would agree 100% with what Andre said. I am perfectly fine with a film with slow build-up as long as you have a good atmosphere and just do something to keep me interested, obviously.
Right.
But if you're going to take it really, really slow, definitely emphasize, some kind of mystery or plot element, definitely keep your attention on what's happening, and this film definitely had that. So
yeah,
that's why I was perfectly fine with the slow build-up and the very leisure pace of the movie.
Yeah.
So I think given those assets it has, the slow build up really worked in its favor.
And you're also talking to the guy here. As for me, whose two second favorite films of all time, Gods and Generals and Gettysburg, are both over 4 hours long. So I am very accustomed to slower paced movies. The American cut almost cuts everything, all of that atmosphere out. And also with the added narration with it never shuts up.
Oh boy.
it never shuts up.
Because while the Japanese version has that very eerie, mysterious tone, it, like you mentioned, it's very leisurely, very I love the music involved with it. It's got a nice, relaxing viewing experience, from judging from what you are describing, Adam, just by having that constant narration in your face, especially with a dub voice actor as bad as that, is constantly just expositing information all the time. I can imagine just being fed up with that.
It ruins a lot of great moments. For example, the first scene of the movie, really, the first true scene of the movie, where the car crashes and they go into the building trying to find what's going on. They come across the dancer.
Yeah.
That is all narrated over, and not only that, but cut in half. And I'm like, God damn it!
Maybe the dub company was like, we can't have this Japanese music here. We gotta cover it up with some people talking.
They cut out a lot of the Japanese aspect to it, which I'm like, you're missing the point of the movie. That's a huge chunk of the movie right there.
But these folks here, they don't care about the Japanese. They care about the horror.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of, and I'll always go to this example, in Godzilla Rates Again, in the Japanese version, there's a great ominous sequence. There's two of them. That happened, one right before the attack on Osaka, where these jets fly over the city and all you hear are the air raid sirens and those jets. And in the American version, there is a narrator over that explaining what we're seeing, and it ruins the scene completely. Another example from Godzilla Raids Again is when the female protagonist, even though she does nothing in the film, she looks out the window and sees the flames and fires of Osaka that rise like a mushroom cloud. In the Japanese version, that scene is completely silent, and it really hits you hard with the images. And in the American version, there is this fucking narrator going on there with this really cheesy Mickey Mouse style music playing, and I'm like, oh god. That's another difference between this and the Japanese version of the Human Vapor and the English version of the Human Vapor. The score is completely cut out in the American version. It's replaced with this Americanized cheesy 50s, 60s sci-fi music, and I actually have to say I prefer the music that ends. The music in the English version where the girl, spoiler alert, even though I have that at the beginning of the video, when she kills herself at the ending, I actually
Kazuka.
I liked Kazuka.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kazuka. The music in the American version during that sequence, I actually kind of like more than in the Japanese version, but that's the only edit I will defend. That is the only edit I will defend.
I will say, as someone who mostly enjoys who loves first-person narration, you got to have like a really good. You have to have a really good narrating voice, as well as like that nice, engaging writing to go with that narration. Mm-hmm. But if you're gonna have just some like goofy, stereotypical Japanese accent and just doing nothing but just saying describing what's on screen, that's definitely not the way to do first-person narration.
Yeah.
Yeah, to and also just go a little bit on tangent on that, to give an example of what Andres is referring to, like, let's say, like, Godzilla King of the Monsters, the American cut of the first Godzilla movie. Mm-hmm. There you actually had some pretty decent narration, some pretty well-written voiceover.
Yeah.
And you had Raymond Burr, who had a very unique voice.
Absolutely.
So you put two together, that actually worked. And also, he did not narrate over the entire freaking movie.
Right.
He talked over the parts that kind of connected plot points together, but he did not. It's not like Gigantus, the fire monster, where every single scene has the narrator telling us what we're seeing, even though we can watch it ourselves because it's a movie and not an audiobook or a radio program.
Right.
So.
The American version of Rodan also has that problem.
Yeah.
Really badly. Now that I've seen the Japanese version and I adore the Japanese version, every time I watch the American version, I just want to punch. I just want to punch that guy in the face and tell him to shut up.
Just jump into your DeLorean and just travel back to the 1956, and then punch the lights out of that guy.
Yeah, it's possible.
Absolutely.
This is the 21st century. Anything is possible.
Yes, we're in 2015. We're in the future now.
Right.
Yeah, with hoverboards and arcade games that only babies play anymore. So
and Pepsi Perfect and self-drying
Jaws
jackets,
19.
Jaws 19. Shark still looks fake though.
Yeah. Batman v Superman. Oh wait a minute. Okay.
Let's not get too ahead of ourselves here, Adam.
Yeah. Let's not get too real. 9/11. But no.
Oh wow.
Way to bring the mood of this review down.
Oh god. Anyways, so let me just.
For the record, that was not scripted, and I had no knowledge of that. So I had no idea that was coming. So don't pin any blame on me for that one.
Everybody pinned the blame on Patrick Galvan. It was totally his idea. He told me to bring it up once in this review. No. No, in all seriousness, back to the H-Man. The H-Man. Oh, God damn.
They both have H in the title. I can see why.
This sucks. So we need to have like a counter on screen where every single time one of us refers to this movie as the H-Man or the H-Man as the Human Vapor.
Yeah.
You should do that in post-production.
But anyways, The Human Vapor.
Do it.
The Human Vapor. This is a film that has kind of been built up in my mind for a very long time. Because this film has never been fully released on DVD here in the United States. And Ishiro Honda has gone on record many times as stating that this film, Matango and the H-Man, are his 3 favorite films that he directed. And so, of course, that kind of builds up this mental image of this film in your head and made me really want to find this film. And I didn't find it. A fan of mine found it, who I will not name. And I thank you very much. You know who you are. And also this and a copy of The Secret of the Telegium Man. And so I finally sat down and watched it. And I have to say, I wasn't let down. I wasn't let down. But I do want to say that this isn't a masterpiece. This movie has some serious flaws in it that I do want to bring up when it feels natural. But yet there is a shit ton of good in this film. And I've gone on record of saying in the War of the Gargantuas commentary, when a movie is good, if there's something bad in it, you just kind of go, huh? And then you move on to what's good, and you focus on the good. But when something's bad, when something makes you go, huh? You harp on the huh because there's nothing good that follows. It's just nothing but bad. This is an example of a movie where you're left scratching your head during a couple of sequences, but the good outweighs the bad. And I don't know if you guys had that reaction or not.
Yeah, that's actually exactly my reaction to the movie.
Yeah, I know.
To be honest, I had patience. Because I was curious about the film for a long time, but I had seen Hongo, I have seen H-Man. I know they're two almost like on opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of like Ishiro Honda films. So I was expecting something to be more like in the middle of those two films. I was really kind of like, well, I've out of Ishiro Honda, I've seen a wide spectrum of films, so I was like, this could be anything. So I just kind of went into it with an open mind and just like, all right, let's see what this movie has to offer. And I was overall pleasantly surprised by the movie. I don't think, because I just saw this movie right after viewing this film for the first time, and so I'm not sure if I really paid attention to the glaring flaws, but that's why I'm glad I'm part of this chat so that we can discuss this and see what this movie got right and what it got wrong.
Right. And to go into a brief plot synopsis of the film, it's basically about these mysterious bank robbings that happen, and this police guy is trying to find out what's going on, and he discovers that it's tied to this old kabuki kind of dancer. And as the film goes along, we discover that who's been robbing the bank is this monstrosity who can turn himself into vapor, and they call him the Gas Man, which I'm glad the movie is not called the Gas Man. And
well, the original Japanese title is something like Gas Human Being Number 1, I think.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds more scientific, so I'm like, okay.
Imagine like he's like, what do I do with my life, Father? Then like Gas breaks through his window. That's it, Father. I shall become a Gas Man. God
damn it, with the Batman references tonight. It's great. Even though there's nothing to do with the human vapor.
Who are you?
Gas Man. But anyway, so we discovered that it's been done by this Gas Man. This Gas Man is madly in love with the Kabuki girl, and a bunch of hijinks ensue, and it's just glorious. And this is a very Honda film. This is a very I look at the film, and this film screams Honda. There's a few films that have been made that it screams that certain director more than any others. For Stanley Kubrick, for me, it's Eyes Wide Shut. It's Eyes Wide Shut or Barry Lyndon. For Mizaki Kobayashi, it's Samurai Rebellion. For Akira Kurosawa, it's Redbeard. And that's not necessarily a good thing. And sometimes it's not a good thing. An example being Redbeard. Redbeard is a very kind of slow film, and it's kind of a financial failure, and so on and so forth, and so is Eyes Wide Shut. But, oh no, and Alfred Hitchcock, the most Alfred Hitchcock movie I've seen is Marnie, which I hate that film. And so with this film, I was looking at the film, and every single shot is so Honda-esque. It's not even funny. And a part of me thinks it's because Honda had such a fun time making this movie. And another person who I can tell is having a really fun time with this movie is the guy who plays the Gas Man, Tsuchiya, who plays Mr. Shindo from Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. And Tsuchiya...
You're finally pronouncing his name correctly.
I am. Aren't you proud of me, Patrick?
I am, because
it
the
only took 10 episodes.
Yeah. Now you don't have to call Mr. Shindo in every single time you review.
But back to the Human Vapor. He really gives this film a level of humanity that just really sets this film kind of above the normal sci-fi film. And because even, I hate to say it, but even the weakest of Ishiro Honda films have aspects in them that set them kind of above the normal everyday B science fiction movie. And this film is no exception to that rule. I don't know if you guys got that vibe or not, but I certainly did while watching this film. And of course, I have kind of a biased eye towards it because I just did Ishiro Honda-thon, so yeah.
I would say so. I mean, definitely got a lot of that heart and passion that you would see in other Ishiro Honda films. And unlike, I guess, if this was an American-made movie where this person ends up becoming some sort of like mutated freak of nature, obviously this person would end up being like the super evil person who would go out, who would be like irredeemable, and there's like no chance of saving this person. And they kind of do that same thing here. However, they really do put a lot of emphasis on like the romance and the tragedy of this character, and how he kind of like you basically, once you get into the second half of the film and you learn about his backstory, he becomes a very sympathetic antagonist to where you feel bad for him, like as he kind of wants to do good, but at the same time there's that evil side of him that just takes over and just like loosens all inhibitions when it comes to performing these like horrific acts, be it robbing or murdering people.
Yeah, I think this film is very much so. This film, as much as it's labeled as a science fiction movie, this film is really much more of a tragedy.
Yes,
than
definitely.
anything else. This is definitely a Greek style tragedy because everyone dies. The two main characters, or who turn out to be the main characters, die in the end, or the characters that you feel the most emotion towards die in the end.
Didn't that aspect kind of give you a bit of a, what do you call it, like a Bride of Frankenstein sort of deal, or kind of like a Universal monster, a Universal, classic Universal monster movie where it's like the main characters just die in the end? Interesting
you bring that up.
Yeah, actually, I see a very, very much a Bride of Frankenstein kind of similarity between in there. Yeah, good observation.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring this up because I've read a few reviews, and a lot of reviews compare this movie to the story of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And though I don't see that much.
Yeah, I
don't see it that much. I believe that it could have been dealt with a little more, and it's inferenced a little bit because we have Tsuchiya's character, and he sort of comes off as like a stereotypical, like a nice guy who gets walked over. I mean, he works in that library and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. And it's explained when he was in the JSDF, he was there as basically a paperboy transporting orders from point A to point B. And, he kind of is a man who's walked over, and then all of a sudden he gets these unhuman powers, and because of these unhuman powers, he starts losing his mind. Though I don't really agree with that assessment, I can see it. To be honest, I honestly wished the writer of this film, Takashi Kimura, who by now we all know who Takashi Kimura is. What a sad man.
Yeah.
Sorry, before I forget, another Universal monster movie this definitely reminded me of was the Invisible Man, where again, just a regular guy who ended up, having these larger than life powers, grows mad. He believes absolutely no one can touch him, and eventually succumbs to his own arrogance.
That's what I honestly was thinking of more than The Bride of Frankenstein. Was the Invisible Man. But back to Kimura, I believe that this film has a few wasted opportunities, and that whole dilemma of Tsuchiya's character, you know, it could have been like a back and forth between good and evil with your own inner id and your own inner consciousness or soul. It could have been a really cool battle, but he didn't quite play up. He didn't play it up enough, and so that was a bit of a letdown. But again, it is a pretty decent film, and I like the film because it immediately captures your attention, because the first shot of the movie is the camera getting shot at by a gun, and I'm like, what? this is wow. that woke me up.
Yeah, the first sequence, the title sequence, opens and begins with the gun being shot at the camera, kind of like Great Train Robbery.
Well, it's kind of like that is something that kind of deviates from the norm, because normally a movie of this magnitude just has opening credits and then it goes into the movie. No, here the opening credits is a scene.
Didn't it kind of give you a bit of a Hitchcock vibe, especially with that score at the very beginning?
It was very Hitchcock.
Especially when you have that it seemed to have been like a POV shot of the gas man himself, slowly walking towards the safe.
Right. It is a very effective teaser, because it leaves you going, what the hell is going on? And then when the car crashes with the cop guy trying to get him, you know, it's very eerie, because they're like, there should be a guy here. Why is there no footprints? Why are there no fingerprints? Why is this going on? So you're left with a bunch of questions. And that's another problem I have with this film. I know, Andres, you brought this up as well. Is that the beginning of the film, the two main characters are this cop and this news reporter.
Let's see, Okamoto and Kyoko.
Kyoko Manabe, age 23. Sorry. Why did I just quote Destroy All Monsters? I don't know. But we have...
Please watch out for this girl.
I fucking love that scene. I'm just like, oh my god. I just adore it. Anyways.
Well, this is what's controlled her. I'm sorry, go ahead.
But, so... those are the two main characters, and then as the movie progresses towards the end of the second half of the film, and definitely the last act of the film, the character dynamic changes, and they're kind of these two characters, which I didn't mind. These two characters had some charisma to them that I liked, especially the reporter, that I really enjoyed, and then they're kind of, as the movie goes along, kind of swept under the rug. And the biggest example of that is that apparently there's like a hinted romance between those two, because if you look at the reporter Kyoko and Okamoto, they often are in each other's arms during the final scene of the film, and I'm like, why?
And it was hinted at before. Like before, they
Right.
kind of have this very flirtatious kind of like a friendly rivalry, almost like frenemy type of relationship with each other. Like they've obviously known each other for a long time. They often rely on each other for certain bits of information pertaining to their individual careers as a police lieutenant and a reporter / journalist. But there are moments, like you see, there's this moment where in the newspaper office, one person like criticizes, Okamoto. Kyoko actually goes out of her way to defend him, saying that oh, don't worry, I'm sure these guys they'll do their job. They'll find the bank robber. And then later on, towards right before the climax, Kyoko is actually talking to Kasuga, saying pleading for her to delay the recital, and she's like, no, I'm doing this because of the man I love. Much like wouldn't you do the same thing for the man you are obviously love?
Oh, God damn it, you brought that scene up. I was going to bring that up later, you son of a bitch.
And she's like, at that point, she's kind of embarrassed because she has yet to reveal her or even acknowledge her feelings for Okamoto, not even to herself. So it's like she kind of So there's obviously, she has a romantic affection towards him.
I agree, and again, I wish Kimura played with that a little more, because there's scenes where they drink together.
Mm-hmm.
First off, I love it how she holds nothing back. She's got a giant pint of beer in front of her, and I love that. I fucking love that. This is why I love Honda. Honda is also a master of subtlety, and we'll get into another scene later where that subtlety really just explodes, and quite frankly, makes me jizz in my pants every time I look at that frame. But the fact that she has a gigantic ass beer in front of her, it's just great. If there was another sequence between Okamoto and Kyoko, and it was a sequence where they're kind of dancing around the subject that they love each other. Uh-huh. They don't say it, but they clearly are dancing around it. It would have been fine. I would have bought this romance a lot more. But to me, it felt a little too forced at the ending, where suddenly she's throwing herself into his arms while the place is exploding.
And also, to be honest, I think that's kind of out of character for her, given her behavior throughout most of the movie, because before that point, she's taunting him, she's teasing him, she's like, driving away from. She's like, "Hey, you want to ride?" And she just kind of drives away.
She's very assertive, and she doesn't take any shit from him.
Right.
Yeah, and also she's the one who brings up the idea of let's do an interview with this murderer, essentially. She's a very adventurous, bold. She's the strong girl, she's strong, not like G.I. Jane strong, but she's strong in the adventurous, bold, goes after what she wants kind of character.
Takes the initiative type of person.
Right.
Yeah, and at the end she turns into your typical I wouldn't say damsel in distress, but your typical emotional. She's the girl from Rodan. She starts
the one who kind of like goes through the emotional breakdown at the end.
Yeah, well, she's clearly the character that the main good guy is supposed to hold. And it falls into that trap. And I'm like, oh god damn. What could have worked is, as they're seeing the human vapor, the guy Tsuchiya, crawl out of the flaming house, which is an extremely effective scene. And what would have happened is then you see her kind of like take a step back and go into his arms. I would have bought it a little more, because then she wouldn't have been in his arms the whole time. It's seeing this person dying right in front of her, and then the tragedy of it would have worked better. But again, some missed opportunities there. As far as Okamoto is actually no. There's another scene that I really like about this too. The reporters have a lot of character to them. Like they're not real. They're not real three-dimensional characters. Don't get me wrong, but they have personality.
Yeah. They definitely have a lot of moments in the film where they have their time to shine, as they're constantly going at kind of butting heads with the police.
Well, they're not only doing that, but I love it. Like during the scenes where they're talking with the editor, they're kind of bouncing ideas off of each other, and like they're getting more and more ideas, and then they kind of click together. I like that. It shows that they've worked together for a long time.
Yeah.
Which is another great Honda trait. Honda does that a lot in his films, and a great example being Mothra vs. Godzilla, especially with the guy with the egg and the editor there, played by freaking guy from Atragon. It's great. But here, what I like is that she gets the crazy idea. Let's do an interview with the bad guy, or with the robber, and all of a sudden the editor is like, "That is the craziest idea I've ever heard." And Kyoko goes, "So you don't like it?" And then the editor goes, "Are you kidding me? I love it. Go do it."
I always love little dialogue like that, where it's like, "That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Let's do it."
It reminded me of a J. Jonah Jameson moment, and I was like, and I was looking at that scene, and it got a genuine laugh out of me. It did. It got a genuine laugh out of me. I was like, well, okay, this movie is clearly doing something right. And the film is full of little tiny great character bits like that, and that is really good. The fault really comes towards, I have to say, the middle of the film is where a lot of the faults start coming up. At the beginning and the ending of the films are really, really solid, and I really enjoy them.
Like the first half has that really strong build up towards the eventual reveal of the human vapor.
Right.
But then it's once you see the human vapor, then the plot decides to go in into a different direction.
Yeah, it's like when the human vapor reveals himself, suddenly the dichotomy of the characters changes. It goes from the reporter and the cop to Chia and his love interest becoming the two main characters. And I don't have necessarily as big of a problem with that as I should.
Right, because there's still that this whole new dynamic still feels just as compelling, if probably not more so than the previous one.
Yes, I agree. What do you think, Patrick? You haven't spoke for a while.
I said they're a little bit more compelling. I think to a certain extent the reporter, I think she's used, well, not perfectly well, but modestly well throughout the second act. We see her still trying to follow the Kasuga, trying to get still following her with the press conference and whatnot and all that stuff. But Okamoto, he gets kind of dropped.
Yeah.
Or rather, he kind of feels
dropped in the middle.
He feels lost. He gets lost in those scenes, like whenever you would see the gas man Mizuno, or you would see Kyoko, or even his love interest Kasuga. They're all doing their own thing, and meanwhile Okamoto, he's just kind of wrapped up in this generic police business. That's like, we got to find a way to scientifically stop the villain, and it's kind of like those generic talking to the scientist as science exposition scenes that you've seen in any other Japanese science fiction movies that they don't really stand out very well. He doesn't have that. He doesn't have nearly as many shining moments as Kyoko would have. So like I mentioned, because of that, he just gets lost in the second half, where it's like, while I'm getting engaged to this new subplot, I'm like, oh yeah, I haven't seen him in a while. Where is he?
Yeah, it's kind of like a half human sort of.
Oh God, no, I'm sorry. This is way better than half human.
It's kind of similar in that the guy gets kind of dropped after. Gets kind of dropped in.
Freaking half human literally drops them off the face of the planet. And
then it brings them back in again.
Yeah, this movie, you see sequences with Okamoto there, so you're constantly reminded that he's still here.
But he's treated more like an in the background. Like he could be just a random cop, basically. You could basically replace him with a totally different actor, and nobody would know it's Okamoto.
Nobody, right? Which is a fault of the film. Which is one of the bigger issues I have. I literally have a list of all the things that I'm like, what? In the film. But as these two characters are dropped, I'm going to move on to the character of Tsuchiya and the love interest. What's her name?
What was it?
Kasuga.
Yeah, Kasuga.
Yeah, the movie switches to those two, and they make this movie work. They really are the most complex and the most tragic characters in the film. And to me, they really added such a big level of humanity into the film that I couldn't see any other sci-fi film really playing with. Only a Honda film would focus on something like this, or something as tragic like this, and harp on it and focus on it, which is a very Kimura thing. Kimura always has these kind of tragic characters in there, and so on and so forth, and these human dilemmas in there, and so seeing it here, it's no surprise. But would you guys agree with me that these two are definitely the most complex, deepest characters that we'd focus on?
Oh yeah,
yeah, definitely,
hands down, definitely.
And I'm sorry, I'm kind of at a loss for words here. It's
while you're thinking about it, I just want to add this. Kasuga is played by the actress who played Toshiro Mifune's love interest in Hiroshi Nagaki's The Samurai Trilogy, which is one of my favorite movie trilogies of all time. So, extra points just on that level, just from me. So
she definitely had star power in the film. And one thing that I love about this film is that our first introduction to Chia's character is so offhanded.
Yeah.
That you wouldn't otherwise pay attention to it at all. And I loved that because she goes into Kasuga goes into this library, and she's going to look at all these ancient paintings, ancient forms of kabuki theater. That's what apparently she always does. And then Okamoto comes in and says, "What has she just did?" And blah 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 blah. And then it's like the scene moves on. It doesn't linger on him. It doesn't do anything. It just moves on. And so when you find out that he's the human vapor, you're like, "Oh my god, that's him." Now, if it wasn't for the fact that I'm a huge Toho fan, that I know that's Tsuchiya, and I therefore know it's going to be an important role. If somebody was just seeing this like offhanded, the casual movie viewer was to see it, they would not expect it. They would not expect it. And here is why I love Ishiro Honda so much. And the other thing that I was going to mention, where he's the master of subtlety. If you watch that scene, I watched it again today in prep for this. And during the scene where we first see him, when Kasuga walks away, before Okamoto immediately runs up, Tsuchiya glances over at her as she walks away and gives a short little smile. And then he immediately goes back to his job. And I'm like, this is why I love Honda. Because he added that little detail there that could be completely brushed off and completely overlooked. He put that level of detail there, showing that there's clearly something more in their relationship than what meets the eye. And that's even before we're introduced to the whole dichotomy of him of Tsuchiya being the gas man and his love for her and her love for him. This is before that. So you see that little bit of a nitpick there, and that little bit there, and it picks up on it even before that actually happens. It gives another level of realism to the film. It's kind of like
he doesn't make it too obvious. Like, doesn't give you like a close up of it. He just it's just part of a long shot that just kind of pushes in.
Yes, yeah, and it kind of reminded me of the scene on King Kong where Kong puts Fei Ray up in that little cave, and then you see the snake monster coming up to get her. If you notice, when Kong turns away, he picks it up and there's a flower in his hand. He's going to give it to Anne, and then all of a sudden she screams and he immediately drops it and gets the monster. It's that kind of level of subtlety that makes me love Honda. It's such a subtle thing that you don't even notice in the film until you watch it frame by frame. And so on and so forth. That's why I'm fucking fanboying over here over Honda right now.
And on the other hand, Honda definitely knows how to misdirect his audience. Like, during that same scene in the library, he doesn't pay any much attention to Mizuno, but he does pay attention to the bank robber with the sunglasses, where it's like he's obviously a very shifty looking individual. And when you later see him in the film, it's like, okay, here are the robbers, but then wait a minute, these aren't the real robbers. And at the beginning of the movie, where it's like everyone's thinking that Kasuga is like directly involved with the bank robberies, but while she does have a connection, it's for a much more emotional reason why she is a part of this whole mess.
Yeah, the movie plays with the audience very well. I will give it that. Especially during the first act and the last act of the film, it plays with you very well. Those are great scenes to be brought up with, and like the whole thing with the phone call. Mm-hmm. Where the news editors get the phone call from who's going to be the bank robber. We think it's that bank robber who robbed the bank at the opening scene, but it's not. It turns out to not even be related to that, and that's another thing that I really like about this film as well. This film does play with you quite a bit, more so than
I want to say about that scene. I love the level of where they get the phone call and they decide to record it.
Yeah.
I love the level of detail that Honda puts into that shot, like showing us how they set up all the equipment and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All those various little close-up shot by shot. It's like almost like a step-by-step kind of deal. Like, how would you record a phone call back in those days? It's pretty much like a little timepiece now these days. I actually really like that scene a lot because of all the detail he puts into it.
Yeah. There's another one that I also really like. I like how they try to set up the recording without him hearing it either, because it's another good example when Tsuchiya actually calls him and says, I want to set up an interview. And the guy who plays the lead character in Varan has the phone, and suddenly he's like, oh god. And all of a sudden the girl's like, what's wrong? And he points at the phone, and then he points down at the picture.
of Tsuchiya.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I love that. I love.
Yeah, it's a great use of body language. It's like, look, there's this person right here.
Guys on the fucking phone.
Good.
Oh my god, such a fucking mashed potatoes. This is great stuff. This movie has a lot of great stuff.
It does.
Mind if we touch on some of the problems I have with the film? Because
sure.
it comes with this. One of the things is it's established when the human vapor shows up because he wants to. Because what happens is he finds out that Kasuga gets arrested, and Tsuchiya's character does not like that, and so he kind of turns himself in. He says, "I am the robber, and I will show you how I did it." Okay, and it's clearly shown that when he turns into vapor,
Yes.
that he falls. His suit drops to the ground.
Right.
Right.
He cannot turn his suit into vapor. He leaves.
Yeah, he
his clothes
cannot turn
behind.
he could not turn his suit into vapor.
Right.
And there is one sequence when he shows up when the cops are trying to figure out what's going on or plan to capture him. Suddenly he shows up
with a new suit.
with a new suit.
That happens
And I'm
throughout
like,
the whole
how the
entire.
fuck did he do that?
That happens throughout the whole
And how
entire
many
movie.
suits does he have?
Yeah.
And I'm like, how? Why don't you? It could have easily been explained. It could have been, yeah, he can take the form of whatever he wants because he's the human fucking vapor. If that happened, I would have been like, okay, I buy it.
But then
it makes no sense, but I buy it.
But they're probably like, so it's a nice looking effect. Let's keep the whole suit dropping business in.
You're
But
right.
You're right. Like
Actually,
Go ahead, Patrick.
go ahead. Okay, well, actually, what I was going to say, that's actually part of what I like a lot about this movie in terms of its technical details. It's got kind of that charm to similar to like the Invisible Man, in that they show you all these practical effects, in which they have like wires and mechanisms to make various pieces of like the setting move.
Yeah.
And whatnot to suggest something like they're like not just like the suit falling, but like like when the the lock on the bank vault being turned open and it's swinging open and closing and such.
Yes.
I really like practical effects like that where I know for a fact they had like all these various mechanisms and devices buried throughout the set to kind of control on cue and such. I love details like that, so I actually don't complain at all about the whole thing of how many suits or where did his suit go. Because I like that cinematic effect of hinting at something that's not really there and making us think, okay, how did they do that? I love effects like that in movies, so I don't actually have a problem with that really at all. I asked the question, but I don't really jot it down in my notebook. I accept it because of the what it gives me that's positive as opposed to the questions it raises.
The other question I had is every time Tsuchiya turns into his vapor form, he puts his hand on his chest.
Oh, on his chest, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought about that. Like, I was expecting him to come up with some sort of like explanation, but I'm assuming it looks like he's like he's like holding onto his heart. Like, I don't know, maybe it's a way of activating his vapor powers by somehow like controlling his heartbeat or something. I'm not sure. I figured it has to do with some sort of like the pulse, like the blood pumping through his body or something. Some odd. I'm just reaching for an explanation that has to do with the heart.
Yeah, well, it's never explained, and most of the science in this movie is never explained, and that's probably a good thing because we would have had the
A movie in the first place.
We would have had if the science was explained in this movie, it would be the H-Man kind of science, and it would make no sense at all. But I wish there was just some sort of explanation as to why. Maybe he got wounded there or got hurt there, and that's sort of the catalyst of why he changes and so on and so on. And it's never really explained, but it's always a little detail. So I had mixed feelings about it. Patrick said before recording that he likes it because it's an immediate physical representation of he's going to transform whenever he puts his hand up like that. But on the other hand, I'm like, but I want to explain why he does that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He just does things.
It's reasons.
Because reasons.
It's a nice touch, I guess.
And the other thing that bugs me, I don't know if this bugs you, or either one of you, but it certainly bugs me, why in God's earth does Tsuchiya trust this mad scientist guy? In which he goes to him, because you look at the room where he goes in, where he gets the experiments done. It's a dark, dingy room.
Again, another Universal Monster reference. It looks like he's in Frankenstein's laboratory.
It's explained, isn't it, that Tsuchiya was referred to by the JSDF, and I'm like, so this guy is working for the government. So why is he in this dark, dingy room?
Because all scientists like to work in dark, dingy rooms.
Don't try to defend this, Andres.
That's what all scientists do.
I mean, I know that's what I do, but most scientists wouldn't do that.
Hey, Adam, our art director's got to make a living too, come on.
Okay, all right. So say this. What if it was in a gigantic, clean, white room with, everything was in it, was, very sanitary and shit, and you would have had, different colored walls and shit.
He can't focus on his work with everything all bright and shiny.
Why? That's... okay.
What if his reflection is in the glass and it distracts him while he's trying to count the molecules?
What if the person,
speaking of him being distracted... Why the fuck does it, when all of a sudden the scientist looks at Tsuchiya, all of a sudden he says it's been 10 days since he fell asleep and the experiment began. Suddenly the scientist just leisurely walks into the room and checks through the little viewfinder. He's like, oh shit! Suddenly he turned into human vapor.
I left it in the oven too long. Thanksgiving is ruined.
I was like, there's only one
Thanks,
thing.
Obama.
Thanks, Obama. You weren't even born yet. The thing that that made me laugh about it was I was like, the only thing that would have made that better is if he walked in with a sandwich,
and he drops it.
And I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm like, this guy has government aid, and he works in this dark, dingy room. Everything is shot Dutch angle for some fucking reason. I don't understand why.
I really like the Dutch. It's obviously so different. Signify the fact that it's a Dutch angle, and that scene itself, the beginning of that scene actually, is when Mikino is actually signing the contract. So in a way, it's a way of showing that the Dutch angle is representing this dark, dingy laboratory as being kind of in a way, a much darker. He's going down a dark path, and him signing that contract is almost like him literally signing away his soul to the devil.
Well, nice touch by Honda as well. If you notice that as soon as he signs it, the doctor immediately crumples it up and puts it in his pocket. And I'm like, oh god. And why doesn't this guy have assistant? Some guy, I don't know. I'm just throwing a spitball here.
He's a mad
Here,
scientist.
but why isn't there somebody
he's
constantly...
a mad scientist, but he's not a very good mad scientist.
He's not a very good mad scientist. So I'm just spitballing here, but why doesn't he have assistant to, keep an eye on Tsuchiya while he's in the oven?
Well, he's the book Dr. Frankenstein, who works alone and gets scared by his own creation.
That is the most bullshit thing I've heard all day, Patrick.
No, that's what actually happens.
No, yeah, and
because
also, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but the doctor is clearly burned. I don't know if you guys noticed, the side of his neck and stuff. Yeah, it's covered with burn marks and everything. But why the fuck? Why? Why would Tsuchiya work with this guy? I know.
Because he's desperate enough to escape that mundane life of working in the library.
But he's not that desperate, or he doesn't come off as that desperate.
And he talks him into it with one conversation too.
Yeah, and I'm like, wow, this is wow. You know what would have made that better? Well, first off, I love how it's explained that the reason why he left the JSDF was because he had lung cancer.
Yeah.
I love that little tidbit.
He's gonna die anyway, so might as well help out in the name of science.
Right. But I also love how, first off, why do I keep saying first off, that what I would have done differently was I would have had a friendship form between, or I would have stretched the flashbacks out more. I would have had kind of a mentor or father-son kind of relationship form between this doctor and Tsuchiya, which would result in them trusting each other. And then when the experiment goes wrong, it would make it much more tragic when Tsuchiya kills the doctor because then it would have been one giant big misunderstanding. And it would have made it a lot more tragic, in my opinion. Instead, it's kind of like offhandedly given to us. Yeah. And
it seems like more they were really setting up the some mad scientist as like kind of like as more of a villain, where it's like he deserves to die for being so deceitful.
Right.
But then again, like, why is he so deceitful if he works for the government? Because generally you'd think that someone who works for the government doesn't need to be deceitful.
And not work in a fucking basement full of cobwebs and rats.
Unless he was actually lying about that.
Which he wouldn't be, because then the JSDF wouldn't have referred to him. He wouldn't have done that. It looks cool. Aesthetically, it looks cool. But on the other hand, it makes no practical sense at all. And you see, I don't mind how they don't go into any detail on how he's turned into the human vapor. I don't mind that at all, where they leave it very ambiguous.
This is 60s Toho logic here. I mean,
right.
It really, honestly, could never happen in real life. But it's an interesting idea where it's like, if you don't think too hard about it, you'll have yourself a fun time with this really neat concept like with these superpowers.
Right. It's definitely this flashback sequences that I have the most problems with.
Yeah.
Do you have an issue?
When I was last watching this movie, I kept comparing that sequence unfavorably to like Redbeard, the Kurosawa film, and in that film there's a really long extended sequence that's a flashback. Well, it cuts back and forth between past and present, and that flashback sequence goes into a lot of detail. It's a character who's dying and he's reflecting upon what happened to him in the past, and it goes into a lot of detail of not only what goes on inside of his own head, but also his life and such. And I think it would have been more effective to give us like more details of Mizuno's life before the human vapor. Like instead of him just mentioning that he had lung cancer, why not go into detail about what he did for the JSDF, his discovery that he was sick with a disease that probably cannot be cured. Give us more context of what he was like before he became what he is now. And so, again, as I'm watching it most recently, I'm thinking this would have been better if they'd follow. Well, of course, Redbeard hadn't been around yet, but if they'd done the similar kind of thing that Kurosawa would do 5 years later, go into a lot more detail, draw this scene out, make it a little bit longer, so we can get a little bit more of an understanding of who Mizuno is. And I think that would render the movie even more effective and also just solve a lot of these problems and questions we're having here.
Right. And speaking of those flashbacks and stuff like that, or that flashback as well, they had a wasted opportunity to really go into the romance between Tsuchiya and Kasuga.
Right, because I was hoping that the flashbacks would explain how they met and
I was too.
what led to them having such a strong relationship that the kabuki dancer would stick her neck out for him.
Right.
But we're never really given a reason as to why she cares so much about him.
Right.
Other than he respects her a lot and, he wants her nothing but more than to see her succeed as a dancer. But outside of that, we don't get anything beyond that.
Throughout the second half of the film, you're kind of left wondering what's their level of relationship until a very specific moment. But it's when that moment happens, suddenly you get it. But before that, you're kind of left not rooting for the human vapor at all, because he comes off kind of as a stalker, and she comes off as a bitch. Kasuga comes off as a very stern person, as a bitch, especially the way how she treats the reporter when the reporter comes and sees her at the beginning of the movie.
Oh yeah, I think that was mostly done just to set her up as the red herring in this film.
Yes,
where it's like she's by her acting like a bitch, she's like, oh, she definitely has something to hide. She's most definitely involved with his robbery.
And I have no problems with that. It's just I wish the flashbacks kind of explained why suddenly she's acting that way. And it would have explained more away, and I would have bought it easier. Tsuchiya comes off as a stalker because the way how he kind of acts is like, does she love him back that much? And it's left making you scratch your head, and it leaves the rest of the film without having really a reason why things are happening. You buy it because of their performances, You buy it because of the tension that's made. But when you start thinking about it and analyzing it, you're left asking, but why did that happen? Why did it lead to here? Why is this happening? And that's a problem I have with the film.
Yeah, it's definitely a problem. I did have that same thought where it's like, does she feel the same way about him as he does for her? And it's like, where did this all come from? And like, if you're gonna go so far as to make these two kind of like the new main characters for the second half of the film, why not go all the way and explain everything? It's the basic concept of like show don't tell.
Yeah.
And they show like a good portion of it, but they don't in terms of the origin of the human vapor, but they don't show the other half of this information spectrum.
Well, not only do they not show enough, but they also don't tell enough. And because there is a line, granted, there is a line where Tsuchiya is asked about his relationship with Kasuga, and Tsuchiya answers, "I love her very much." But he doesn't say, "We love each other very much." He just says, "I love her very much." And it was leaving me thinking, is this guy just a stalker? Like, what the hell's going on? What does she love him back? And it doesn't.
Like
answer.
you said, due to the performances, it seems like she loves him back, but it's like we never get anything concrete in terms of like in terms of concrete information.
Yes.
It's like, I mean, there are moments where they talk to each other, but then again, outside of the very end where they embrace each other right before they die, there's never like an intimate moment between the two of them.
It isn't until the scene where Kasuga is talking with that woman, and she's like, "Why don't you stop this?" And Kasuga says the line, "You must really be in love with your man," because she brings up this conversation where it's like, "Oh, I'm going to go to this place and this place with him and all this stuff." And then all of a sudden Kasuga says, "Oh, you must really be in love with your man." And when she says that line, it's a very beautiful moment. That's the beginning of the third act, by the way, is when she says that line. And basically, that line there, "You must really be in love with your man in order to do anything for him," it explains their relationship right there in a nutshell. And it's a major foreshadow to what happens at the ending of the movie with the whole death, with her death. That line there, "You must really be in love with your man," foreshadows the rest of the movie like there is no goddamn tomorrow. Like, the only thing that could make that more obvious is if, like, a blinking thing came up on screen saying, "Foreshadow, foreshadow." And it's so wonderfully done. And it reminded me a lot of Dr. Serizawa's death. It reminded me a lot because there's this great line in the original Godzilla where he says, "What if I am to be turned? And even with my notes destroyed, I can create it again." He never says that he's going to kill himself, but it's foreshadowed with that line. Her saying, "You must really be in love with your man in order to be willing to do anything for them," is a foreshadow for that. It was a beautiful goddamn moment that it literally made me pause the movie and think about it. I was like, wow, that was really wonderfully done. And Kasuga's performance in that scene specifically, the way how she's very reserved and the way how she never breaks eye contact with the other woman there when she says it, absolutely great performance. Not only a testament to the woman who plays her as an actress, but also a testament to Honda for being willing to pull out such a performance. Wonderful scene. Wonderful scene. That is really the catalyst for the rest of the movie, is that sequence right there. And then as far as I'm concerned, almost the rest of the movie is almost spotless. Like, the entire third act of this movie, I think is beautiful, is wonderful, and I wouldn't touch it. Like, I almost would not touch it. The third act of the film really is the best act of the movie. And I went on Geeks for Geeks and I posted saying that the last 15 minutes of The Human Vapor is some of the most tense, human, tragic, yet uplifting. It's one of the most, basically one of the greatest endings I've ever seen to a film. And watching the film again, watching Human Vapor again before this review, I agree with that. I still stand on that statement. The last 15 minutes of this movie are truly one of the most beautiful endings, in my opinion, in sci-fi history. the ending of this film is amazing. I can't say it enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely,
You know,
I definitely love how it's this this like extremely uncomfortable mood and atmosphere that keeps building up in this one room. I mean, especially when I love that frame with Mizuno. He's in the center. He's in the center of the
very
of the
center
shot.
of the room. Yes,
Yeah,
I love
and you
that
see
shot.
everyone's like surrounding him. There's no seats in the front because like everyone is so afraid of what's gonna happen. They're kind of like standing near the exits, the room's exits. And meanwhile, you have just this music going on. The music itself kind of gets more intense. Just, shit starts to go down. Everyone's like wondering what's going to happen. What are we going to do? Is she going to survive? Is she not going to survive? So many like quick last minute decisions are brought up as the tension just builds.
Yeah, and I gotta say, I love climaxes that are set inside of big opera houses and such, like in the remake of The Man Who Knew Too Much by Hitchcock. And even though I don't care for the film that much, the ending of The Godfather Part 3 with the assassination attempt inside the opera house. Yeah. So I got a kind of a soft spot for big finales that do that. So the movie's already got my interest just on that basis alone. With this third act, the last 15 minutes set inside of the Kabuki Theater.
Yeah,
and
there's three locations. There's three locations. There's the actual opera house. Then there's below the opera house, and then there's outside the opera house, and it's all intercut together so well. And I think a lot of what makes it work so well is not only the great performances and the great editing, but that music that plays. It's the Japanese kabuki music, and it's very. To me, it's what builds a lot of the tension in the movie, is that music playing in the background, because it's like this so doesn't fit with what's going on. You'd expect there to be sort of like an underscoring music, but there's none. And I love that. It really worked. It really worked well in the film, and added a whole another level of tension to it that otherwise would not have been there. And I love how the music also gets more intense as the scene goes on, that plays on the stage as well, before it finally drops off.
I also love how this scene also bookends with the opening of the film, where you see that exact same performance that what's her name, Kasuga performs in her own house. So in a way, it nicely bookends the film. Also, one element of the Kabuki performance I love is the mask, where it's like she starts off wearing this rather human-looking mask, and then by the time she finishes the performance, she's wearing that demonic-looking mask. I mean, she also wore that demonic-looking mask at the beginning of the film, kind of to signify how close she's related to this like dark presence that's going to occur in this film. And by the end, you see how it's also like, again, kind of like by associating with this dark presence, she has doomed herself alongside the man that loves her.
Right, exactly. That's very well said, Andres. It's just a really wonderful and sad moment. And the scene where like you break down and you're like, oh my god. It just is when suddenly he runs up on stage and just hugs her. And she starts crying. And I'm like, oh no, what's gonna happen? Oh no.
And then like she's looking over at what's his name? Like her like not her assistant.
Father.
Yeah, not butler, or I guess assistant. Gio, I think that might be his name.
Yeah, it's Giga.
But it's like
Giga is his name.
Giga, like he's bowing his head. He's like, I'm ready. Like he doesn't want this thing to happen, but he's like, it's like this heart-wrenching moment where he's like, yes, I'm ready.
And that's another thing that I like about it too, is that Giga clearly loves her, in a different way, of course. But he loves her very much. I guess maybe like his own daughter. And the fact that he loves her so much that he's willing to die in that scene for her.
He's willing to stay behind.
Right. And it's such a beautiful in a tragic way. It's such a beautiful,
and also kind of
ending.
it's also kind of like hinted at. Like this moment was also kind of like what foreshadowed back during the scene where Mizuno he's breaking everyone out of jail, and he attempts to get Kasuga out of jail, but she refuses and asks for Giga to stay behind with her as well.
Yes, yeah, and he's more than willing to do it, to stay behind, and it's great stuff. The ending really to me, saves all those problems that we mentioned, and those are big problems that I mentioned with the film. This completely redeems them. That ending alone is enough to make me want to come back to this movie time and time again.
Yeah.
And it is an absolutely wonderful, both tragic, very tense, but yet very human ending. And she's just crying, and then she flicks the switch of the lighter, and the entire place goes into flames. And then you have that really sad image of what's left of the human vapor crawling out of the ruins of the opera house, and he slowly dies.
It's a very disturbing scene.
It is.
We don't
and
really
you can tell he's
that...
in pain. You can tell that he's in great pain when it's happening.
It's so eerie looking because it's this headless body, like, you know, slowly crawling on all fours, like, towards the steps. And I guess I'm assuming he's in this, like, half solid, half gaseous form.
Yeah.
Obviously, because, you know, he's still in his suit, even though you don't see the body.
The gas what happens is, I did a little research. The gas that they're putting into there incinerates all particles. And so, him being vapor, those are particles. And that's what happens, is that he gets locked in this half state, and he's burnt to a crisp. And it's also a great touch that he returns to his normal self, burnt to a crisp, of course, when he dies.
Just like the Invisible Man.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Yeah, and also you have the flowers falling on him.
I like that.
And I was like, oh, wow. And it starts raining, and I'm like, oh, my God. And I'm very happy that they ended it there. I'm very happy. Honda ends the movie very well. He's like, he knows when to end a movie because he doesn't linger on things. No, it's just when the ending happens, it's the ending. Because as soon as that happens, suddenly it's just the end. And I'm like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. In the American version, by the way, he lives.
What?
In the American version, it's explained through narration that he escaped. It's explained through himself, and it actually works, believe it or not.
Oh boy.
It actually works, because it explains that though I was hurt, I will live forever because I am vapor, and I will have to live alone without her in my life. And he says stuff along the lines, of course,
because I'm the vapor this city needs, not the one that it deserves.
And he says
a silent protector, a watchful guardian.
He says he says he will live forever, but without her, it will be the most miserable existence ever known.
What do they show while you say that? Like just the flame, the building burning, or what do they show underneath that narration?
They show him crawling intercut with the building burning.
Oh, okay.
And
because I gotta be honest, it's starting to sound like the ending to the theatrical cut of Blade Runner, where where Harrison Ford conveniently explains that the replicant girl is never gonna die, even though they told us throughout the entire movie that she's gonna die in a few years.
No, it's
sounding really, really cheesy and convenient.
It's not that bad.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a very tragic ending, a very, very good ending. And I'm glad you did bring up Giga, because Giga really does. I like him as well.
And anybody who is familiar with classic Japanese cinema will know that actor.
Oh, yeah, you will immediately recognize him. And I recognized him first because he plays the guy. He has a cameo in Gamera, the giant monster, where all of a sudden Gamera flies over him. He's like, "Oh, a flying saucer!" and runs away.
That's him.
Yep. Bakusen Hidari is the actor's name. He was also a regular in a lot of Akira Kurosawa's
movies. He was a
movies.
regular in Kurosawa. Well, he was. I'm not sure if this is the right term, but he was a kabuki actor. He has a very expressionist face that he can put a lot of expression on it, and so he was in a lot of those. He was a stage actor, a Japanese stage actor more than anything else. But you recognize him. Wow. Really good movie, guys.
It is.
It's a pretty damn good movie.
I want to ask your guys' opinion on this matter. What do you think of the musical score by Kunio Miyachi?
Oh, you mean Ultraman's theme?
Yeah. Yeah.
I gotta tell you,
Yeah.
the entire fucking movie, every time there's music from him, I'm like, I'm not watching Ultra Q.
Yeah.
I'm not watching Ultraman. Why is there Ultraman music here?
Yeah, it really sticks out, like especially to me,
Like-
especially in the scene where she's telling her Gia to stay in jail. The music they play was reused for the episode of Ultraman 66 with Jiris.
Yeah.
And it plays when after Jiris gets killed and the music
Yeah.
is panning over his body and Ultraman puts the frill back on his neck.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, wait a minute, is the monster supposed to be here in this scene?
I was
This music sounds
sitting there
very very
like,
familiar.
Giga! Before I like pretended to die.
and that episode had a mad scientist too.
Yes.
So
Yeah, two mad scientists killed by their own creator.
Oh, the parallels are uncanny. If I didn't know any better, I'd say they were sequels.
Next thing you know, it's revealed that like the mad scientist of this movie turns out to be like an Ultra 7 alien of some kind,
yeah,
Oh,
or rather,
God.
he added bolt-on.
yeah,
It's a-
Balton. Yeah,
Yeah.
He shows up at the very end. And it's like, huh? He's like, I am the one behind all of this. I have orchestrated this madhouse of a film to take place.
And thus,
or maybe he turns into the Dada because it's just fucking stupid.
Yes.
Because the Dadas are the dumbest aliens in Tokusatsu history.
for the record,
I don't know. Their faces are
They
pretty
are-
freaky as hell.
but for the record,
Well, they look freaky, but they can't fight for shit.
That's true. Even when
mean-
after he's shrunken, he shrinks Ultraman to human size. He has the perfect opportunity
Yeah.
to smash him, but he doesn't.
I would like everybody
Or
to
when
know that
when they're
right now,
when
my roommate
Cap and the girl are trying to escape from
I know
him,
that
he
no
keeps
one
teleporting.
hears
Cap
this,
just keeps
but-
knocking him out of the way every 2 seconds.
with
Like
my roommate
he just trips him, pushes him over. The only thing that those guys had going for them was their persistence.
That's my roommate.
That's
Mark.
all they had as far as a strategy.
Yeah.
Right now. While these
And
two
yet they
have
still
their
remain.
that-
They
conversation
still
about
remain.
Ultraman.
They still remain quite popular to
you.
this day for whatever reason. I guess it's the
They,
face.
yeah, they do. They do. They're very immobile wooden faces.
Yes. a really good design can take you quite a long ways.
All right, guys, let's
Yeah.
get back on topic here.
Right, Ultra Q.
Yeah, that was
9/11.
That was my
9/11. Yes.
We
Oh, this is getting dark again.
so yeah, this is a very very good movie.
Yes.
It is.
Very good movie.
It is.
Yeah, very very good. I highly recommend it. I don't know, I highly recommend it. Like this is a genuinely good film. There's a lot of problems with the film, but it's still pretty good. This isn't like Frankenstein Conquers the World, where I'm like, this is it has a lot of problems, but there's a lot of good in it. No, this movie is genuinely good. Go out, and if you can, watch this. I recommend it as highly as I really can. Go out and search it. It is really enjoyable and an excellent movie directed by Ishiro Honda. I guess, do you guys have anything else you want to talk about before we go into final thoughts?
No,
I
other
think-
than I really like Mizuno as a villain. I mean, we talked about a lot about the tragic side of him.
Oh yeah.
We're talking about the very emotional core of him. I just like how you mentioned that very early on in the review, Adam, how he looks like the one who's having the most fun in this movie, and I could definitely tell that by his very like overly confident character. I mean, he loves just being like this person who has no reservations for doing what he does. He feels like he's above the law. He's almost like an anarchist in a way. He just exudes this maniacal level of confidence in him that's very entertaining to watch whenever he's on screen, just laughing it up.
Yeah, his laugh when we first see him turn into the vapor and he starts going out through the vent, his laugh I really liked. It's very, I liked it a lot. Very 60s, but I don't care. Well, that's just Tsuchiya. Tsuchiya loved playing these kind of crazy roles. I mean, he played the leader from Planet X on Invasion of Astro Monster. That right there should kind of explain what type of characters he likes playing in movies.
Yep.
Yeah, so great. Really great. And Tsuchiya was always very grateful for Honda for giving him a role like this in the film. He was always grateful for Honda, and that's why he always came back. He loved working with Ishiro Honda for these reasons. But yeah, Patrick, anything else you want to bring up?
No, I think we covered all the bases in regards to this film.
Yeah. So I guess let's go. Let's start with Patrick. What are your final thoughts on the movie?
All right, my final thoughts on The Human Vapor. I do not think it's one of Ishiro Honda's best movies. I don't rank it up there with the original Godzilla or Matango or Atragon. I don't rank it quite that high. But I do think it's a very good movie. I think it's got a lot of problems, but what's good about the film, especially in the first and last thirds of it, are so good that it's a lot easier to overlook and forgive the parts that fall short. It's definitely worth seeing. It's well acted. It's well paced. It's great to look at. You know, it's very well directed, very well edited. It's a very atmospheric film. It's a mystery. It's a sci-fi film. It's a tragedy. It's all these great things put together. I think it's a very, very good movie, even though it is imperfect. And if I were to give it a rating, I would give it a 3.5 out of 5, which is a respectable rating. You know, not perfect, not a masterpiece, but definitely worth seeing. Definitely a good film, and one that I would recommend to people. Whether you're even if you're not really a fan of Japanese science fiction or not, I think this is a film that's well worth seeing.
How about you, Andres?
I highly enjoyed this movie. I mean, of course, I have that kind of bias towards crime drama type of films. I mean, that's why I, really got a kick out of films like Dogra and The H-Man, despite their flaws. But I thought this movie definitely blows those two movies out of the water. I like the mystery aspect of it that's set up early on. I like the characters. I like the chemistry between them. All they give really great performances. The special effects are really well done for the most part. I mean, there's not much they can really do with a gas man, but it's still really creative, as Patrick described previously in this review. So overall, it's a really nice build-up, nice payoff, really tragic climax. It just really hits you, and definitely it's like the performances between those two actors that really save whatever problems I have in terms of not knowing like the basis for this relationship and how it came about. Like, we don't know how it began, but at least we knew where it ended, by the climax of the film, and how and why these characters got to this point by the end. So overall, I would probably, due to my more strict rating system, I would probably give it a 4 out of 5, because this is definitely a movie I would most gladly own, and I would definitely recommend this to any fans of science fiction, or like Japanese dramas, or like fans of Ishiro Honda easily. And basically, this is definitely a really good film that I feel like I will most likely definitely be returning to, definitely be returning to now and then, every once in a while.
Well put, Andres, and I agree with them both. This is a really good movie. I more lean towards Andres than Patrick. I think this is one of Ishiro Honda's best. This is to me where Honda's true self really comes out in terms of his level to detail and everything like that. This is a very Honda movie. If you don't like Honda, you won't like this movie. It's that kind of movie. This movie does have a lot of problems, especially in the middle of the film. However, the first act and especially the final act of the film really make up for those. I'm torn, you guys. I'm torn. This movie is really extremely well shot. Cinematography is great. The lighting is great. The atmosphere is great. The editing is great. The pacing, for the most part, is really good. The acting is phenomenal. The direction is great. The special effects, though crude, are pretty decent and fun to look at. And I'm torn. My gut is telling me to give this movie, my mind is saying give this movie 3 out of 4, but my gut and my heart is saying give this movie 3.5 out of 4. So I'm going to go with my heart. I'm going to go with my heart, and I'm going to give this movie 3.5 out of 4. I really do like this movie. Do go out and find it. If you're a fan of Honda, or if you're a fan of sci-fi, or if you're a fan of kind of like the Universal horror movies, kind of atmospheric films, watch this movie. It's really good. and I recommend it to a very high degree. I really do. So, that being said, if either one of you two boys got anything you want to pimp out?
Let's see. I did recently had my Halloween, my second annual Halloween live stream. You can check out both parts over on my channel. Let's see, my latest review currently is for Orochi, the Eight-Headed Dragon, the 1994 fantasy action film that Toho made, and probably pretty much one of the very few giant monster movies Toho has made in the last couple of decades, but not outside of probably Attack on Titan that isn't Godzilla related. So let's see, anything else on my channel as of now? Oh yeah, and also I recently, David, Adam, and I, we all had interviewed Jonathan Claude and Christopher Martinez, the respective writer and artist of the independent kaiju comic Night of the Fire Beast. So definitely check out the latest episode of Shoe Watch to learn more about this metafictional comic and the wonderful and funny creators behind it.
Patrick?
Stay tuned for a new stop motion video coming out on my channel, in which I'm going to be showing off my entire SH Monster Arts collection in stop motion animation.
Oh my god!
I've acquired a lot of models. Last time I did anything even like this was my Halloween special from last year, and I've gotten a lot more monsters since then. So there's gonna be a lot more stuff than what you saw over a year ago. So stay tuned for that. Because it's stop motion, I cannot guarantee when it's going to come out. So, but it'll hopefully come out in the next month or so.
Is it gonna be like a fashion show where your characters are gonna be going down the walkway, turning around?
Yeah, and here comes Godzilla.
Oh yeah, look at that.
And right behind him is Godzilla 2000, the special color edition.
Oh. God damn. I'm so excited.
There's little Godzilla, and he still isn't growing that much.
And coming down is Kiryu in his 2003 design.
I'm really liking those blue shoulder cans he's having right now. That was last year's, you dumbass. Oh, okay.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Why did you, Patrick, make this?
Because he likes showing off his toys, Adam.
He likes showing off his toys, but they're not the toys that I like to show off. As for you got anything else, Patrick?
No, that's
it.
it.
I'm really excited.
My Godzilla, my Tokusatsu fashion show will be enough for now.
Okay. Now I'm really excited for both of those. As for me, same old shit, different day. Hit like, subscribe, comment if you've seen this movie, what you think of it. I really do. Tell us if we're awesome or tell us if we're complete idiots. I don't care. I just like conversation. Go on Facebook, like AN Productions, a bunch of new shit going up there. Like my new movie, Which Way They Walk, on Facebook. We are getting closer and closer to the end of production. We've had a lot of bumps in the road, but the film is still being made, and it's going to be glorious. I honestly think this is some of my best work. So do stay tuned for that. Let's see, hit the like button, subscribe to me here. Go on Facebook, like the Godzilla Saga. We just reached 350 likes, so thank you very much for those who have liked that page. And yeah, that's all I've got. Except for one thing. One thing. Guess who got their hands on a subtitled copy of The Secret of the Telegian Man? Yeah, this guy, right here.
Fuck you. I want The Secret of Telegian Man.
Oh, yes, you do. Oh, yes, you do. Glorious.
Hey, Adam.
Yeah?
Looky what I have here. This is the extended edition from Masaki Kobayashi's Quiden, put out by Criterion.
His personal cut of the movie?
Yeah, and it's got all these fantastic special features. I mean, there's an audio commentary by Stephen Prince. There's an interview with Kobayashi from 1993. There's an interview with his assistant director on the movie too. And look at all this fantastic little booklet inside. Look at all these great. Look at all this. Where's your copy of this?
You son of a bitch. You bastard.
So I got The Human Vapor on DVD before you, and I got Masaki Kobayashi's Quiet on DVD before you. So I can take the loss on Legion Man.
To the last, I grapple with thee.
Can Adam overcome his inability to accept defeat? Or does the filmmaker have something else up his sleeve that not even Patrick could top? Tune in next time. Same bat time, same bat channel. And by next time, I mean never. I mean, seriously, who the hell would even be interested in this dick measuring contest? You know, I don't even know half of these movies that they're talking about. You know, if I were there in person, if I even had a camera, I would give them a piece of my mind. I mean, seriously, who the hell even cares? They're just movies, goddammit, and to get us upset about. Even I'm getting upset over this stupid bullshit.